A fascinating bill of particulars, a fascinating, if you will, bill of indictment was laid out in the Wall Street Journal. No, not by the editorial page nerds, but by a guest opinion writer, Bradley A. Smith, former chairman of the Federal Election Commission, who, by the way, was hated by John McCain. McCain hounded this poor guy because McCain wanted McCain-Feingold. Yes, yes. And Bradley Smith was a conservative, unlike McCain. But he lays out the case, how since the Citizens United decision was issued by the Supreme Court, that the Democrats, Obama, Schumer, Carl Levin, Dick Durbin, have had this concerted campaign to destroy it by empowering the Internal Revenue Service to limit your free speech and the free speech of others. It's been a constant campaign, as he points out. And I want to give you some of the specifics that he lays out here, because this is a perfect example of tyranny. And when Obama says, hey, I didn't have anything to do with this, Obama had everything to do with this IRS scandal. Everything. So Bradley Smith, Professor Smith, he says, consider these events, all of which were either widely reported, publicly released by the office holders themselves, or revealed later in congressional testimony. He says, connect these dots. You ready for this? I mean, this is compelling. January 27, 2010. Obama criticizes the Citizens United case in his State of the Union address and asks Congress to correct the decision. February 11, 2010, a few weeks later, just so happens, Chucky Schmucky Schumer says he will introduce a law known as the Disclose Act to place new restrictions on some political activity by corporations and force more public disclosure of contributions to 501c4 groups. And that's what we're talking about, these 501c4 groups. Schumer says the bill is intended to embarrass companies out of exercising the rights recognized in Citizens United. Quote, the deterrent effect should not be underestimated, unquote. So there's Schumer in his office, diabolical, scheming, trying to figure out how to fix elections, how to curtail free speech, and how to eviscerate the Constitution. He's good at all those things. Then the very next month, March 2010, Obama publicly criticizes conservative 501c4 organizations engaging in politics. In his August 21 radio address, he warns Americans about shadowy groups with harmless-sounding names and a corporate takeover of our democracy. The man's not given to hyperbole, is he? September 28, 2010, Obama publicly accuses conservative 501c4 groups of posing as not-for-profit social welfare and trade groups. Senator Max Baucus, then chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, asked the IRS to investigate 501c4 groups, specifically citing Americans for Job Security, an advocacy group that says its role is to put forth a pro-growth, pro-jobs message to the American people. No liberal group, just that group. Following within weeks, October 11, 2010, you see this is an organized, concerted attack by the party of tyranny against free speech. This is how they're overturning the Citizens United case, the Supreme Court ruling. October 11, 2010, little Dick Durbin of Illinois asked the IRS to investigate 501c4 Crossroads GPS, which is Rove's group, and, quote, other organizations, unquote. April 2011, White House officials confirmed that Obama is considering an executive order that will require all government contractors to disclose their donations to politically active organizations as part of their bids for government work. The proposals later dropped amid opposition across the political spectrum. But you see the attack. It just goes on and on. February 16, 2012, 7 Democrat senators, Michael Bennet, Colorado, Al Franken, comedian, Minnesota, Jeff Merkley, left-wing kook, Oregon, Chucky Schmucky Schumer, Gene Shaheen, New Hampshire, Tom Udall, New Mexico, Sheldon Whitehouse, Rhode Island. All of them write the Internal Revenue Service asking for an investigation of conservative 501c4 organizations. See what's happening, folks? The next month, this is every month. Boom, boom, boom. March 12, 2012. The same 7 Democrats write another letter asking for further investigation of conservative 501c4s claiming abuse of their tax status. You see, Obama and the Democrats, their fingerprints are all over this. The IRS has become their plaything, and they're pushing it and telling it in as many ways as they can. State of the Union speech, letters by individual senators, letters by groups of senators, the president's radio speech on a Saturday, on and on and on. July 27, 2012, Carl Levin writes one of the several letters to then IRS Commissioner Douglas Shulman, seeking a probe of 9 conservative groups plus 2 liberal and 1 centrist. They throw that in there so they can pretend, whoa, I'm not partisan. In 2013 testimony to the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, former IRS Acting Commissioner Stephen Miller described Senator Levin as complaining bitterly, quote unquote, to the IRS and demanding investigations. What a sleazeball. August 31, 2012, in another letter to the IRS, Levin calls its failure to investigate and prosecute targeted groups unacceptable. So now he not only wants them investigated, but he wants them prosecuted. This guy would have been pretty good working for Putin. December 14, 2012, the liberal media outlet ProPublica, or as we like to call it, ProPublica, receives Crossroads GPS's 2010 application for tax-exempt status from the IRS. That is a crime, ladies and gentlemen. Because the group's tax-exempt status had not been recognized, the application was confidential. ProPublica publishes the full application. It later reports that it received 9 confidential pending applications from IRS agents, 6 of which it published. None of the applications was from a left-leaning organization. This is amazing, isn't it? In America? April 9, 2013, Senator Whitehouse convenes the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism to examine nonprofits. He alleges that nonprofits are violating federal law by making false statements about their political activities and donors and using shell companies to donate to super PACs to hide donors' identities. He berates Patricia Hines, then Deputy Chief of Criminal Investigation at the IRS, for not prosecuting conservative nonprofits. May 10, 2013, Carl Levin announces that the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, this is his Soviet-style show trial committee that he used throughout his 412 years in the Senate, that they'll hold hearings on, quote, the IRS failure to enforce the law requiring that tax-exempt 501c4s be engaged exclusively in social welfare activities, not partisan politics. This is where they go after the Tea Party. 3 days later, he postpones the hearings when Lois Lerner, then director of IRS exempt organizations, reveals the IRS had been targeting and delaying the applications of conservative groups applying for tax-exempt status. I hope this is putting it in real perspective for you. It sure as hell did for me. November 29, 2013, just a little over a year ago, the IRS proposes, not a year ago, a few months ago, the IRS proposes new rules redefining political activity to include activities such as voter registration drives and the production of nonpartisan legislative scorecards to restrict what the agency deems as excessive spending on campaigns by 501c4 groups. February 13, 2014, the Hill newspaper reports that, quote, Senate Democrats facing tough elections this year want the IRS to play a more aggressive role in regulating outside groups expected to spend millions of dollars on their races. You see, ladies and gentlemen, after the 2010 shellacking that the Democrats took, after the Tea Party and the Tea Party groups that sought the same tax status as all these left-wing groups, after the Supreme Court ruled that there will be more speech, more free speech during elections, the Democrats in power went nuts. And they went after conservative organizations, starting from the president at the State of the Union speech, berating the Supreme Court, attacking that decision, sending a signal far and wide to all his political allies in and out of government, sending a signal far and wide throughout the bureaucracy, but specifically the IRS. Choke these groups, choke them off, put them down, delay them, do whatever you have to do. And then his Dobermans in the Senate, Schumer and Carl Levin, among others. Constant pressure, constant hearings, constant threats. Not just to investigate, ladies and gentlemen, but already to prosecute. because these people are tyrants, absolute tyrants. Former chairman of the Federal Election Commission, Smith, put this letter together, put this op-ed together, I should say, Bradley Smith. I've asked him to come on at the bottom of the hour, and he will.